Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast. This is your Liverpool versus Chelsea match reaction. Of course, if you want to subscribe, head over to YouTube, the Dynamo Podcast Network. You'll find us there on Spotify as well if you want audio versions of the show. And if you'd like to contact the show, you can always contact us on Twitter at Sessions Shankly. Of course, this is the Shankly Sessions review of Liverpool versus Chelsea. I said I'd take my time on this match reaction because I wanted to jot down a number of points that cropped up, especially alluding to the second half yesterday. Of course, let's get into it first with some player ratings. Allison, I think a 6. Hadn't got a whole lot to do mainly all day. Was very unlucky for the header as well. What a looping header from Kai Havertz, I have to say. Trent a 7. Seemed threatening all day. Some really good passages of play and stuff like that. Was always a threat down the side. Did have a handful against Alonso at times. And at times the repeatability of what he was trying to do and the link up play and stuff like that. I thought maybe they could have tried something a little bit different instead of continually going back to the same pattern of play of what they were trying to do. Joel Matip, as always, a stalwart at the back, gets a 7. Great block to deny Lukaku, solid display, always in the right spot at the right time. Such a calming force, him and Virgil there. Virgil, of course, gets a 7. He gets a 7 minimum every game, if not an 8. Didn't have much to do defensively. Almost scored with a low shot, very unlucky as well. But generally speaking, between himself and Joel, they silenced Lukaku really, which isn't an easy thing to do considering what a brilliant player Lukaku is. Andy Robinson got a 6. I'm going to talk about Andy later, Was very unlucky. I mean, he let Havertz go for that run to cause the header, of course. The header to me was a loop and header. I think he was just trying to put it across, but I mean, he did catch it lovely, and we can only assume he was going for goal and it looped over the keeper and into the back of the net. But I thought Robbo could have been a little better on that. Of course, only returning from injury. We'll talk about him later. Was this the game to throw Robbo back into? Such a steely sort of game that would require a huge performance from a player in his position, and only coming back off an injury, hadn't played any league minutes up till that point. Harvey Elliott, what can we say about Harvey Elliott? Absolutely brilliant player. Gonna be an absolute star at Liverpool. For a guy of his age, the penetration, the moving, the wanting the ball, the dropping off to pick up the ball, the link up play with players. He's every bit a senior player, isn't he, for his age when you think about it? I mean, absolutely brilliant move last year, putting him out at loan at Blackburn. He has matured so much, even from what we seen last season when he did tog out for Liverpool. Absolutely brilliant to see Klopp having faith in him and putting him out there again. Not a bother on him, wasn't overawed by the occasion. This was a huge match. This I would regard as an early season title contender match. And I thought Elliott was absolutely brilliant. Could have scored a couple of goals in the first half. Was very unlucky as well. But God, maturing into a fine player, isn't he? Absolutely. Fabinho, a 6. Solid and steady as ever in central midfield, but didn't really have the impact on the game that I thought he was going to have in terms of control on that midfield. I think he was lucky not to be booked, and some would say he was lucky not to be sent off. I think he committed 9 fouls and didn't even pick up a book, and I don't know what the hell was going on there. But yeah, solid as always, but I just expected a bit more from maybe especially in the second half when Chelsea were down to 10 men, maybe could have pushed on a bit more, you know what I mean? We didn't really need to be as defensive and hold our shape the way we did in the second half. Could have went for it. And again, we'll talk about that later when I bring up some of the talking points from the game. Jordan Henderson, a 6. Could have scored in the first half. Was very unlucky with that ball off the left. Did his best to get Liverpool going. But again, we'll talk about it in the points I raised in the match. I thought the crowd was very flat. I thought Hendo, in terms of, Gene, the guys up, I thought it was very flat. I didn't think we really got out of second gear really all day. You know what I mean? Mo Salah with a 7, slammed home the penalty after that contentious decision with Reece James. I don't think the referee was given any choice but to make that decision. Chelsea fans will argue maybe it was a bit harsh. I would say it was a bit harsh, but if you look at the letter of the law, I don't think he was given a choice what he'd do. But a lot of Chelsea players were surrounding Salah and were in his ear and stuff like that. But as always, the cool, calm, collected Egyptian king just steps up, slots it home. Absolutely brilliant penalty to get us back in the game. And from there, I thought we were going to kick on and we could run out this game, get 3 points, go top of the league going into the international break, but not to be. Roberto Firmino, a 5. I thought Bobby didn't have much of an influence on the game at all. I thought at times he was lost in the game. of course, only coming back into the side really, after, bit part playing and stuff like that. Subbed off in an injury in the first half, but he didn't look sharp, he didn't look himself. It's not the Bobby that we know. He just seemed to be struggling to get into the pattern of the game. Some might say 5 is a bit harsh, but I mean, we have to be, I like to give a dose of reality on here when I'm talking about our own players and stuff like that. Sadio Mane, a 7, did really well to win the penalty kick as he caught Havertz out. Worked hard all day, but again, the repeatability of what they do, it's if you work out what Liverpool are doing, it's very easy to defend against it, because all you have to do is, what's going to happen. Because they make the same moves all the time. Nothing really changes up. Thought a couple of times, when balls went to the byline and stuff like that, they were just sort of wasted opportunities of that. I thought sometimes he ran into trouble an awful lot instead of trying to express himself. I think he could go into the box a lot more and maybe draw a foul and maybe get 1 or 2 more penalties. But again, Mane is solid and stuff like that, but I just think he needs to give us just that bit more. Of course, it's early days in the season, so that will come. So there's no worries there in terms of Sadio. In terms of the substitutes, Diogo Jota, again, I'll talk about him later. He's a guy who should have started without a shadow of a doubt. Came on at 42 minutes for Firmino. Unlucky at times, shows the wrong option a few occasions, but he was lively and he puts himself about. He kind of operates as a pest, doesn't he? Like, he's just a pest to defenders and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I just thought, I gave him a 6, because I just thought he would have had more of an influence on the game, and some of his decision making, as I said, was a little bit questionable. Thiago came on 74 minutes for Henderson, gave him a 6, keeps things ticking over, but the Thiago that we're looking for is the one who's going to spread the play, make those brilliant passes, open up defences and stuff like that. Of course, you're trying to open up one of the best defences in the world, and when you're talking about that defence, and you're talking about 2 banks of 4 in terms of Chelsea, they're so organised under Tuchel, one of the best defences of Europe, if not the best defence in Europe. So it was always going to be hard to unlock it. But again, I'm going to talk about this later as a point that I raised in terms of the match. Costas came on 87 for Robinson. It was really a nothing kind of, Robbo just looked like he was absolutely shattered. He's only back. Tsimikas came on. So look, what are you going to do when you come on the 87 minutes? There's not a whole lot you can do. He basically had 6-7 minutes to express himself. Hard to get up, Let's move on to the talking points in the game. These are things that I want to talk about. One, should Robbo have started? I mean, Tsimikas played in the first 2 games. I think Costas, he had every right to expect to play in this game. I know Robbo was coming back. He was on the bench for the last game, but they could have took their time, putting him into a game of this magnitude, which was going to be a very, a very difficult game to come back into when you've had no minutes on your clock this season. And I thought Tsimikas had done enough to retain his place in the side. So I thought he was very unlucky to lose out. And I thought Robbo all day, I thought he struggled at times. I thought he was a bit off the pace. I thought his passing and his movement, I thought was a bit forced. And I just thought he just didn't look up to match speed, if you like. And that's why I thought maybe Tsimikas would have been the option. Jota, I was surprised Jota didn't start, because he's been absolutely brilliant so far this season. I think he's bagged 2 goals already in the 2 games. Why wouldn't you start him? You know what I mean? And maybe release Bobby then from the bench, but he went with Bobby. But I just thought maybe Jota had done enough to put himself into a starting place, really, which I thought was, difficult on him to find himself on the bench considering the start of the season that he's had. Reece James, the penalty and the sending off. I mean, you could have 20 discussions about this and still not arrive at an agreement on it. I think the reality is the ball hit his leg, he moved his arm up and he blocked the ball with his arm. I don't think the ref had any choice. What I would say about the ref is he did go over to review it, but he didn't really review the whole footage, if you like. He only really reviewed the still of him handling the ball. And I do think, although he got the red and that is kind of the letter of the law, I did think it was harsh on the lad. I mean, I have a lot of admiration for Reece James. I think he's an absolutely smashing player. And I just thought he was kind of unlucky yesterday. But if you do put your arm up and it does even come off your leg, if you put your arm into that position, it's a handball, giving the ref no choice, really, and reducing your team down to 10 men. I think up till that point, even though we were 1-0 down, I thought it was a fascinating battle of a match. I thought it was a brilliant match. God knows what would have happened if I had instead 11 versus 11, but I just thought the way the two were playing against each other, this kind of chess game between Klopp and Tuchel, it was really fascinating to see how the game unfolded. And for large parts of that game, we were in control of it. You know what I mean? We were creating opportunities and stuff like that. But we know with Chelsea, they don't need that many chances. They're absolutely clinical at times. You know what I mean? And that's something we could probably learn from Chelsea about being more clinical, creating so many chances. But a lot of these chances tend to be kind of, you know, hitting hope and kind of half chances and not real sort of like, you know, it was one of the things that I picked up yesterday. I thought our play, I thought it was a bit lackluster. I thought, you know, even when we played out, we were slow. It was like, it's like we had accepted that Chelsea were down to 10 men and we'd 45 minutes, we'd plenty of time to score. And before you know, it was 80 minutes, 85 minutes, 90 minutes. Before you know it, it's a draw. Felt like a loss. We had dropped 2 points. In my view, I think we had dropped 2 points. I think we should have went for the 3 points yesterday. I think we could have made a few changes to make that happen. I was surprised at some of the changes, and I was surprised at the timing of them. Yeah, I looked at our second half build-ups, and I just mentioned it there. Our second half build-ups, I thought were very slow and stationary and repetitive. And I thought once Chelsea had latched on to what we were trying to do, it's very easy for them to defend from the wings. Lobbing balls into the box to them is just bread and butter. And unless it's absolutely precise, like the ball that Simiskis delivered for Jota, where he scored that header, unless the ball is that precise, you're not going to get much out of that Chelsea defence. And I just think we kind of lacked that guile and energy yesterday. Some of it is where we feed off the crowd to actually go hunting and actually get the 3 points and get it home and go top of the league. And I just thought that was disappointing for me yesterday. I thought we just lacked that kind of killer instinct goal. You know, like the way Pep was against Arsenal. And like he went 2-0 up and he wanted to win 10-0. He just keeps on going at them, keeps on going forward, keeps on pushing, wants more and more and more and more. I'm not comparing, of course, Chelsea's 2 banks and their defence to anything like Arsenal, who are in absolute shambles, and we will be talking them later in our show, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and also it's going to be a huge topic of conversation on the Monday mashup. Thiago's substitution, I thought that could have happened at half time. I thought with them going down to 10 men, I thought we could have got more aggressive and a lot more offensive and not have to keep our shape as if we were still against 11 men. And I thought we could have done that. I just thought he could have brought him on earlier into the game to make that sort of, you know, make that sort of impact, if you like, coming on, where he could play some cool passes through the middle, draw them out, maybe have a few shots from distance to maybe draw them out to try and block it and open up a little bit of space. It was so congested there along that 18-yard line yesterday that it was going to take a deflection or a pinpoint cross or a pinpoint shot to make anything happen. And I just thought maybe we could have been clever in trying to draw them out. I looked at yesterday, Kanate. Could we have switched Kanate into a back three? Did we need to remain so defensive? Could we have gone with a back three and pushed the boys further up the pitch, you know, more like wing backs rather than left and right back? Could Trent have gone into midfield and created a bit more chaos, just change it up a little bit instead of going down the wing and linking up with Harvey all the time? I thought maybe just a little bit of a change up there might have been able to do something there. Keita for Fabinho, I thought might have been a choice. You know, one thing we were lacking was, you know, kind of that guile of offensive attack and stuff like that, you know. And I thought we spent an awful lot of time playing balls around Fabinho, into Jordan, back to Virgil, across to Matip, you know, out to Trent, out to Robbo. I just thought it used up so much time yesterday in that second half that was needless, you know. I also looked yesterday and I thought, like, we always talk about whether we have options. And Dean off the Shankly sessions, of course, who always comes on, my partner on the Shankly sessions on the transfer show, he was complaining yesterday about where's the options, where's the change and stuff like that. And I seen what he meant. But we had Keita on the bench. We had Ox on the bench. Why didn't we bring them on? Give them a go. What's the worst thing that would have happened? You know what I mean? It's not like we really believe that Chelsea were going to score. I know they probably had some of the better chances in the second half from breakaways. But in reality, that wasn't really what was going to happen. So I thought maybe if we had unleashed Keita, and the other thing, maybe if we had unleashed Ox, maybe switch him for Mane or something like that and put Jota out there and, you know, play Ox up the middle and that false nine like he was doing in pre-season, maybe we would have created maybe something a little bit more. What's the harm in trying it, you know? I just thought maybe if we had taken a few shots from distance, maybe if we had threatened them, maybe that a number of players would have come out to put blocks in and stuff like that, maybe would have opened up a little bit of space there for players to be able to play, you know? The crowd yesterday was a weird one for me. I thought the crowd yesterday were very, very flat. I heard at times there was a bit of singing and stuff like that. But like you could hear the Chelsea fans well over the Liverpool fans yesterday in Anfield, which was so disappointing. We should be drowning those boys out. There's no way we should hear them singing at any stage when we've got 50 odd thousand in there in the stadium and they probably have about 4 or 5,000. We should be drowning those boys out. They should never be heard. And I thought at times the lack of energy that we seen on the pitch in terms of the slowness and the stationary lackluster play, I think a lot of it was trying to feed off the crowd, and the crowd wasn't feeding back into it. And I think we really needed the crowd yesterday to lift the guys, come on, go at it, you know what I mean? And they didn't. And I think that was a problem yesterday. So I think the crowd was a little bit quiet yesterday. Thought it could have been much louder. Let's talk about Jurgen. We love the gaffer, without a shadow of a doubt. But the subbing of Robbo for Timiskas when we're trying to win a game with Chelsea down to 10 men. And my thoughts again were, it's the 87th minute. I know it was a meaningless kind of substitution. But what are you throwing, why are you throwing a defender on for a defender coming off when you want to try go win a game and collect 3 points against a Chelsea team that are down to 10 men? Why not throw on Keita? Why not throw on Ox and go for it? You know what I mean? And I just thought that was a little bit disappointing. I thought the timing of some of the substitutions could have been much quicker to let guys, grow into the game. And I thought that some of the substitutions, I thought like that Timiskas one, I thought, what are you bringing another defender on? No one's up that end. Nothing's happening at all. Virgil and Matip have it totally under control. So I just thought that was kind of weird. So they're just some of the points I raised coming out of the game yesterday. I really do think it was an opportunity loss for us. For me, anyway, I think it felt like a loss, you know what I mean? I thought we would have gone out in the second half and we really would have, changed it up and tried something different and really go at them. We knew what Chelsea were going to offer up. It was always going to be 2 banks of 4 and then Lukaku. That's always what it was going to be. And I just think it was a major opportunity loss to go top of the league, maximum points, good goal difference, all those kind of good things we want going into an international break. But yeah, that's all it is. Let us know your comments down in the episode there. Let us know what you think. Am I off in what I'm saying? Did you guys see what I seen? Also, if you want to contact the show on Twitter @SessionShankly. If you want to contact us on Facebook, it's the Upper Tier. If you want to contact us on Instagram, it's the Upper Tier. And we will be back again, no doubt, after the international break, when we will go again. Come on, you red men.